Hi, everyone, and welcome to season number 10 of the Esports Racing League presented by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, Common Gear, and Grass Paddock Motorsports here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Greg Ginsberg with Ron Mons, joining me in the announce booth all season long, and we've got Josh Wilkie in the virtual production trailer. After a lot of trials and tribulations tonight, he's going to be bringing you all the great views of tonight's action. And for those of you joining us here for the very first time in the Esports Racing League, we've got 4 different classes to bring you here this season: Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata, as well as 2 touring classes featuring the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars in one and the Toyota GR86 Cup car in the other. And each one of our different classes, they're going to race 6 times over the course of a 9-week season. And so it's week number 1, and on tap tonight will be 2 20-minute sprint races. First up are going to be the Spec Racer Ford, so you can see on track right now, followed by the always popular Spec Miata. And as for those 2 touring classes, we'll see them next week when we head to Virginia International Raceway for a special runoffs edition of the Ray Esports Racing League. And so tonight we kick off this new season at the first permanent site of the United States Formula One Grand Prix. It opened up in 1956 and replaced racing the streets of this sleepy little lakeside village, and has been known for its speed and flow, playing host to not only Formula One, but Can-Am, to Trans Am, to IndyCar and IMSA, and of course NASCAR. It is Watkins Glen International. And so good evening, Ron, and welcome to season 10 of the Ray Esports Racing League. It's great to have you on board this season.
I'll tell you, to kick off this season, there's no better track we could go to. Watkins Glen is one of the best circuits in all of America. Definitely an old school circuit, although it has been extensively modified over the years. Yeah, the track layout and just the nature of the course altogether, adding asphalt runoff, some gravel here and there. It's still a fantastic track, has an old school vibe, and I think these drivers are going to have a fantastic time racing in these Spec Racer Fords. And as you said, racing in the Spec Miatas later tonight. I think we're going to have a fantastic show here.
Yeah, it's a great place to open up the season. A track that, you know, there won't be a ton of passing opportunities here, because this track just, it really entices speed everywhere around, and for cars that use the draft so much, these spec classes like Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata, it's always difficult to get an advantage. And as you said, you know, it hasn't changed that much over the years, other than, you know, for NASCAR adding those concrete runoffs at the outside of the 90 and the outside of turn number 8. But the one constant since this track opened up in 1956 is that light blue Armco, the sitting just seemingly inches off the side of the pavement, always waiting to catch you if your car goes astray. But let's do this, Ron. Why don't we turn things over to Morgan Burkhardt, who once again this season is going to be giving us our track guides, and tonight it's a very quick track guide of Watkins Glen International.
Hello everyone, I'm Morgan Burkhardt for Delta Sport US, and welcome to the 3.5-mile 12-turn Watkins Glen International Racecourse. As we're coming down the hill into turn 1, which also happens to... Hello everyone, I'm Morgan Burkhardt for Delta Sport US, and welcome to the 3.5-mile 12-turn Watkins Glen International Racecourse. As we're coming down the hill into turn 1, which also happens to be the most important corner on the track. Looking to make it a late apex, kind of bend the car in, using all of this road on the exit. Got to be careful of the track limits on exit. You can't go over the curb, but you can put the tires right on the exits of the curb. Carrying as much speed up the hill as we can towards the S. It's very, very steep uphill. Makes turn 1 a really important corner. It's really a straight line up until the bus stop. It's minimal steering angle, but it's all uphill all the way. So every single, you know, half a mile an hour that you can get coming out of turn 1 makes a difference coming up to the bus stop, which is a really sendy corner. You got to throw the car in, using the curbs to your advantage, making sure to keep it tight, keeping all the momentum as you can, arcing through the outer loop. It's a very difficult cambered downhill corner, so it works with you, but because of that, it's really easy to overestimate. Coming down into the boot, looking for our markers, gonna late apex through the laces, using all of the road as you can, carrying as much speed as possible. It's a bit of a theme in this car. And then up the hill into the toe of the boot, cambered uphill. You can brake a lot later than you think you can. Late apex, still uphill on the exit. Very difficult corner to get right because it's such a late apex. Then towing all the way up the hill. Just a slight crest and back downhill into the heel of the boot. On the exit of this corner, gray is okay. It does not matter. Track limits just pretty much don't apply. So you can run out all the way over this curb just like that. Doesn't do anything. In fact, I would recommend it coming into the exit of the boot. Difficult corner off camber. There's seams in the pavement. When it's wet, it's very difficult, but off camber makes it even more tricky. Difficult to do late apex, that one. Coming into the final two corners. This one's not really a corner, flat out, trying to bend it through. Don't run over that curb. Through the final corner, looking for a late apex. This blue bush really appears coming out of the corner. You don't want to hit that. And back onto the front straight, carrying as much momentum as we circle around for another lap of Watkins Glen International Raceway.
All right, thanks so much to Morgan Burkhardt for tonight's track guide of Watkins Glen International. And for those of you playing along at home, he introduced himself as racing for Delta Sport, and he has since joined a new team. And we'll be finding out probably a little bit more about that, maybe a little bit later tonight, if not certainly next week, when he gives us our track guide of Virginia International Raceway. So we are still sitting here in practice. About another 5 minutes of practice remaining, Ron, before our drivers go out for their qualifying sessions. And as we do here in the Esports Racing League, 15-minute qualifying sessions, open qualifying sessions to set the grids for these very quick 20-minute sprint races. And as we're watching right now, we just had Miles Crabb go to the top of the leaderboard here in practice, turning in a 203.94. And he bests John Vogel, who's currently sitting in the pits. Vogel, a Spec Racer Ford racer in real life, with a 204.18. Andrew Wozencroft from out California way. Andrew, a Spec Miata racer, just came off a couple of wins, I believe at, I'm trying to remember if it was Sonoma Raceway, but I believe it was actually at Laguna Seca, a couple wins just 2 weeks ago. So good on him. Jameson Huffman racing both in Spec Miata and also Formula Enterprises 2 in the real life as well. And so we do know that a number of racers have are currently wrapping things up in another race series on another end of the internet, Ron, and they're going to be coming over and joining us soon enough. And we've got a lot of returning folks here. We've got Charles Vaccaro out of the East Coast, Megan Overstreet, who came away with a third in the championship at season 9 last season. So great thing there. And actually here, let me run things down, because we talked about Miles Crabb going to the top of the order. He was our season 9 Spec Racer Ford champion. And so that number 131 machine kind of picking up right where he left off there here in qualifying with an advantage of just about 0.24 of a second over Vogel. And Josh Soto finished second in the championship. We'll see if he joins us a little bit later this evening.
We'll have to see what kind of participation we get tonight, even though right now we still have a decent amount of cars. We'll expect a lot more, and I think with a lot of cars we might see a little bit of train action going on, especially at a track like this, which is towards the farther end of the slipstream dependency spectrum, if you want to call it, the very I wouldn't say it's a very long back straightaway between turns 4 and then going into the inner loop or the bus stop, whatever you want to call it. That's definitely the biggest slipstream area on this circuit. From my experiences commentating the Radicals here on Apex, I can tell you that slipstream can definitely play dividends in putting on some awesome racing. So I'm sure at this track, even though you don't have a whole lot of flat-out blasts on this circuit, I'm sure we're still going to have a lot of drivers shuffling for position. And I'm sure some of these drivers are definitely going to try and get their elbows at because they want to win the season opener here.
That's right, and we're watching Josh Justice putting on a drifting exhibition there through turn number 6, going down into the chute, heading down into the boot. And Josh, a Spec Racer Ford racer in real life out of Texas, I believe from the Dallas area, and just saw some of his exploits from last weekend He was in a vintage Formula V festival out, I think, at Eagles Canyon Raceway, if I remember correctly. But good to see him out here again in the number 99 machine. We've also got Justin Huffman in the 223. Justin and Jameson, father and son pairing, father and son duo. Just saw them race in real life at the Mars Labor Day Spectacular, Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series Spectacular at Summit Point Raceway this past weekend. Both of them racing in the FE2 class, where Jameson ran the table, took wins Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and father Justin finished second to his son. As we watch Megan Overstreet here coming up through the S's, we've got a little bit more than a minute left in qualifying, and yet, and Ron, you know, we were talking here about this run out of the uphill S's and then over towards the inner loop, towards the bus stop. And I think in the Spec Racer Fords and the Miatas, you know, I said that there aren't a ton of real passing opportunities here at Watkins Glen. Going into the inner loop, that I think is the key passing opportunity. Not uncommon to see these cars fan out three wide, and I've actually seen Spec Racer Fords go 4 wide into the bus stop before. They usually don't come out 4 wide, that's for sure.
I think 4 wide is definitely on the edgier side of things. I'm sure if I was behind the wheel of a Spec Racer Ford going 4 wide anywhere on the Watkins Glen track, I would probably not. I definitely wouldn't have a clean pair of pants afterwards, because that is very hair raising for sure.
Certainly
That's definitely a squeeze at any track, especially Watkins Glen, which, as you mentioned in your open there, the Armco barriers are very bright Armco barriers. They stand out quite a lot compared to the black asphalt, white lines along the side, and the green grass. The blue, very light blue Armco sticks out quite well, and gives it sort of I won't call it a street circuit vibe entirely, but in certain parts of this track, it does feel very tight, and it kind of plays with your mind a little bit. It's definitely a little bit of a mental challenge trying to go fast around this track, because you really have to have the confidence to push your car.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's always looming there for the many times that I had raced at Watkins Glen. You know, it's always in, you know, just right in your peripheral vision. You never ever lose track of it. And places like turn 9, for example, it always ends up being a challenge that you're just you know that you are going to exit a corner just inches off the pavement. Or inches off the Armco, pardon me, is practice has now concluded. We are now moving into our 15-minute qualifying session, and our apologies, we thought the qualifying session was going to start a little bit earlier this evening, but drivers are heading out for the very first time here, and this is an open qualifying. In iRacing, you have the ability to either send the drivers all out together, or they can have what is called a lone qualifying session, where they have the track essentially all to themselves. But here with the Spec Racer Fords, and we'll see again with the MX-5s, with the Spec Miatas, you know, where the draft really is king. That is how you're going to set fast laps around this place. And so it looks like we have had, Ron, a number of those racers from that other series check in. We've got Skip Brock Jr., who is a Spec Miata driver out of the Southeast, who's joined us. We've got Murphy Nichols, who has been racing an ITS Nissan, his very first year racing and with a competition license in real life. Morgan Burkhardt, who you know well. We were just talking before the broadcast that you had sold Morgan and his parents, Beth and John, his very first go-kart. He is now here as well, and looks like we've got a few other drivers that have checked into the session, like Wayne Buttermore in the number 73 machine as well.
I have a bit more of a story to share with Morgan. He might feel a bit embarrassed about this, considering that he's really the driver and I'm just the one being a loudmouth in the commentary booth, but I'll share the story anyway. So when I sold that, well, it was my dad owned it, obviously. At that point I was at like 11 or 12, I think, when I sold that car to him. He was a small little kid. I mean, I can still call him Sparky.
8 years old.
He's younger than me, so I can still call him that. But back in the day, this was at a autocross event for the DC region at I nearly said MetLife Stadium, FedEx Field.
FedEx Field. That's why I was wondering if you're from Jersey, but FedEx Field.
Yeah, sorry, I blame my dyslexia for that one. So, yeah, so Morgan got a chance to drive my kart for the first time. It's the first ever kart I bought from. It actually used to be driven by Austin Green, the son of former NASCAR driver David Green.
Green, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 2009 top kart, and he drove it for the first time at this DC autocross event. And on his first run, he lifted quite badly. It was just basically coasting through one section. So I told him after that run, hey, I think actually I should probably do like a squeaker voice for the time. Hey, I think you should probably go flat out through here. I think you might be able to go faster. So I told him that, and then he ended up going about 5 seconds quicker. So considering what Morgan's done with the SCCA and done in the road racing scene, I take credit for all the success he's had.
For all of his success. Well, you should. And well, you should. Oh my gosh. All right, that is a cool story. And so Morgan, he has been over the past season running in the Spec Racer Fords and in real life, and actually had a win at the Sports Car Club of America's Super Tour event at Virginia International Raceway. In his very first Super Tour event, is also won at Summit Point in the Spec Racer Fords. Oh, that's a heck of a hit coming through turn 10. Very interesting there. Who did we lose? Was that I think Charles Vaccaro and John Murchison possibly?
I think that was Megan Overstreet involved with that.
Oh, was that Overstreet? Overstreet in the 044 car. Gotcha. In the purple car. Well, she's back out there, and Morgan has had some very good runs in Spec Racer Ford. He this past weekend at Summit Point Raceway, Ron, he started from the back of, I think